Welcome to the age of endless information in the modern world where we are all connected to each other in the 21st century. Enjoy these amazing and awe-inspiring times. Because, believe me, getting to this point was not as easy as it seems. Behind these technological miracles, which we have achieved as a result of great sacrifice, lay the childhood dreams of a lonely man. And when that man aimed to put the laws of nature at the service of humanity, he would change the history of the world completely. Are you ready to see one of the most extraordinary and interesting inventions in history? Here is your Tesla coil. It all started with it. Find his signature in the neon lamps and fluorescent bulbs that light up our world. So is it just them? No. The first X-ray photographs taken with X-ray rays or the Mr. technology used today came to life thanks to this invention that pushed the boundaries. Tesla's greatest goal throughout his life was to transmit electricity wirelessly. For this reason, although the coil he designed allowed the inventor to realize his dream locally, some negativities would have caused the story to be interrupted. But nothing was over yet. Tesla had no intention of giving up on his passions. And the famous current wars of the 19th century were about to begin. From the very beginning, Nikola signaled that he had an extraordinary imagination. During his anguished childhood, he had begun to suffer from a peculiar problem with the violent outbursts that often accompanied his visions of objects. The little boy, who started to isolate himself from everyone day by day, finally turned into a lonely human being. Pigeons were this lonely boy's only companion now. The fate of the world and the life of Nikola Tesla would change forever when, at the age of 17, he was preparing to go to seminary at the request of his father when he contracted cholera and faced death. Nikola promised that if he was allowed to become an engineer, he would stand up and become the greatest inventor in history. His father would not refuse this last request of his son, whom he cherished, and would persuade him to send him to the continent of Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, to America, the land of dreams. At the age of 21, Nikola was on his way to Graz, Austria, to complete his higher education. As soon as he set foot in his new city, he was introduced to the irresistible attraction of electrical science and was fascinated by this magnificent force that he wanted to learn everything about. Nikola had asked his professor to speak in a lecture and stated that generator and motor designs could be greatly improved using alternating current. This invention, if given the opportunity, could change the fate of the industrial industry. However, there was a big problem. His teacher's response to the young student's inferences was harsh, and he began to humiliate him in front of his classmates. Now was the right time, and Nikola believed that this small European city was not big enough to house his dreams. Nikola Tesla was eager to meet the great inventor who inspired him and the master of electricity, Thomas Edison, Lord of the light bulb and the New World. Edison and Tesla would face off in a huge technology war between alternating and direct current. Coming to America and meeting Thomas Edison was Nikola Tesla's greatest passion, his dream come true, and Tesla was finally in the presence of the great genius. The city of New York had been acquainted with electricity since the late 1870s thanks to Edison's work, but this great discovery was interrupted because the problem of carrying direct current over long distances was not overcome. That was the problem that Nikola Tesla had to deal with. If he could fulfill the task given to him properly, he would have a great fortune of $50,000. Nikola Tesla worked non-stop for days and nights. It was an impossible task to carry electricity over long distances with direct current. To overcome this problem, an alternating current motor was needed to raise and lower the voltage. However, Edison had built his entire business on the direct current system, and the slightest word about alternating current was enough to piss him off. At the end of a year's work, all the hard work would be wasted. When his duties were completed, Nikola would realize that he had been deceived. Thomas Edison did not keep any of the promises he made to Nikola Tesla, and he also chose to humiliate him by mocking his ideas. Frustrated, the young man would take his jacket and throw himself into the streets and open his own laboratory a few blocks away. For 7 years, Nikola did not step out of this room. And finally, he succeeded in developing the alternating current motor of his dreams. It was also the discovery of the modern world, and this great news was enough to cause a sensation all over the world. When the famous millionaire of the time, George Westinghouse, shook hands with Nikola Tesla for $1 million in order to become a partner, it would have angered the enemy waiting in ambush. Of course, Thomas Edison was behind the smear campaigns that erupted in the media about the alternative current. Brutal demonstrations are held in the streets to announce to the public that electricity is dangerous. Animals were killed by electrocution. The smear campaign had grown like an avalanche and had begun to affect millions of people when an unforgettable decision was made in Auburn Prison in New York. Prisoners sentenced to death would henceforth be executed by administering alternating current. Traces of the execution were not erased from memory for a long time. However, this situation did not stop Nikola Tesla, but it also stimulated him to work even more. The two enemies would meet at the opening of the Columbian Electricity Exhibition in Chicago. The course of world history would change forever with the definitive start of the War of Currents. Westinghouse Company won the tender for the opening of the exhibition. This situation means a great challenge for Nikola Tesla against his rival Edison. It gave him and his dreams the opportunity to rewrite history. If the system he designed could work on large scales, Nikola would have already won this battle. Hundreds of thousands of people filled the city square, waiting for the sun to set. And finally, the expected had come true, and darkness had fallen. Countless questions began to spin in everyone's minds that when the American president pressed the button, the entire fairground was dazzlingly illuminated with colorful lights. It was the most incredible lighting show the world had ever seen. And finally, everyone had the opportunity to meet the genius of Nikola Tesla. So, does the story end like this, do you think? Of course not. Among the audience was Lord Kelvin, the head of the International Commission, who wanted to obtain energy by harnessing the power of Niagara Falls. And he was speechless in the face of this magnificent spectacle he witnessed. Now there was a bigger show. Nikola's childhood dream was about to come true. Could Niagara's power be enough to illuminate entire cities? He was the only one who believed in this idea from the very beginning. The system designed by Nikola Tesla would work flawlessly and the electric age would have begun. The genius who aimed to put the laws of nature at the service of man had kept his promise as a child. He was now the lord of electricity and lightning. However, there was a big problem. The ghosts of the past haunted Nikola. When he opened his eyes in a sweat in the middle of the night, his work, which he devoted his life to, was the victim of a treacherous plot. He stood helplessly staring at his laboratory, which was burning down before his eyes. One of the players cheated to win the game. The genius who secluded himself for a while after the losses he suffered appeared in Madison Park one day. The world would witness the miracle created by the electric current on that hot afternoon that day. Nikola's remote had worked. The boat on the water moves by scattering lights. The gathered crowd could not hide their surprise once again. But the party was just getting started. Nikola Tesla planned to set up a lightning station outside the city to discover his dream project, wireless electric current. He had designed a gigantic Tesla coil that had never been seen before. And on a night when the sky was covered with clouds, it would be covered with a lightning storm. The experiment caused explosions and fires in the power generators of nearby towns. The townspeople were distraught when their house was plunged into darkness, and they were now afraid of this mysterious stranger. Nikola Tesla believed that the world wars would end with an international communication and interaction. Therefore, he wanted to build the tower of his dreams, which he thought could provide wireless energy transfer, and aimed to raise the bar even higher. If it had succeeded, world peace would have been inevitable. But despite all his hard work and effort, people were starting to think he was crazy and out of control. He worked non-stop for days and nights. There were always minor deviations in their calculations. And Nikola was facing the toughest test of his life. The Tower of Dreams was to be a turning point in his career. Nikola Tesla tried to solve the mysteries of nature every minute of his life, but could not save himself from the envy of the creature called human. Life had played a big trick on Nikola Tesla. The lonely and great genius, who had devoted all his wealth to the service of people, had now come to the end of the road. The masked people of the resplendent and glittering world had long since forgotten what they had done. He refused to share the Nobel Prize for which he was nominated with his archenemy, and decided to reject the ephemeral blessings of the new world with the back of his hand. He designed the modern world, the communication and information age we are in now. But at the end of the day, ironically, all he got was the Edison Award. Nikola Tesla was now standing on loans from banks, locking himself in his hotel room and going on mental journeys. Nikola Tesla died at the age of 87 in a modest room in a hotel in New York. He died in poverty, but he was one of the most useful and successful scientists the world has ever known. Well, what would happen if Nikola Tesla hadn't followed his childhood dreams and opened the doors of the new world? What kind of world would we live in? If we remove his efforts and 600 inventions from our modern world, what do we have? Today, the wheels of industry are turning all over the world. If our electric trains and cars move without stopping, if our cities and homes shine brightly, and if the endless flow of information can start from the depths of space and envelop our world, then this whole design is under his signature. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe.